Hello and welcome everyone to this channel. I'm thrilled you're joining me today as we dive deep into the fascinating and extraordinary story of a seemingly humble coin, a 1990 61-cent piece, that, due to errors and mistakes, managed to cross the line from everyday change to rare, multi-million-dollar collector's treasure. Imagine holding in your hand what once circulated among countless pennies, now commanding jaw-dropping sums, $60 million or more, depending on the source. And that's what makes this coin so mesmerizing. The paradox of mass production meeting catastrophic flaw, the transformation of the mundane into the mythic. Allow me to take you on a journey that begins with the routine minting processes, then veers into the spectacular blunders that elevated this coin to legend, and finally explores the possibilities and hypotheses, some proven, some speculative, that underlie its astronomical value to collectors and historians alike. So sit back, settle in, and prepare to be fascinated as we unravel the origin, the errors, the market dynamics, and the future prospects behind the 1996 Denver 1-cent coin that many believe is worth tens of millions. First, to understand how extraordinary this coin is, we must revisit what a normal 1996 penny looks like, struck in copper-plated zinc, with the familiar obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the reverse Union Shield design. It was one of the routine cents minted at the Denver Mint in that year, expected to be common, collected in rolls, tucked into change jars, and essentially taken for granted. But within that production run, something went horribly wrong, errors so dramatic that only a few surviving pieces bore them, and collectors' imaginations exploded. The genesis of the error begins at the die preparation and hubbing stages. The master dies pass through multiple impressions to ensure the design is properly transferred, and any misalignment, doubling, or hubbing slip can produce irregularities. For the 1990 60-cent, it is widely believed that a severely misaligned hubbing or die doubling incident occurred, creating what is often described as a blockage double die, or even a repunched mint mark scenario. Some reports indicate that during the hubbing process, the mint mistakenly used a misaligned hub, resulting in a die that imprinted parts of the design in multiple orientations, leading to ghosted images or shifted relief. In other cases, it's hypothesized that a die cracked under pressure, shifting mid-strike, and that the last impressions on that die captured partial overlap or doubling. Yet another possibility is that a hardened foreign object or contamination in the press caused slippage during striking, further distorting elements like the date, the D mint mark, or the shield stripes on the reverse. The mistake might even have included a double die on both sides, making that tiny cent a double die wonder. Among the most dramatic reported errors is a phenomenon called over mint mark, or repunch D, where the D mint mark was punched more than once, slightly off from the original, causing a shadow or ghost D adjacent to the main mint mark, a telltale sign that the coin was improperly processed. Some versions of the story claim the mint accidentally used a mint mark from a different year or location, then repunched it, creating a mixed mint mark anomaly. In addition to mint mark oddities, collectors have speculated about off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or even die deterioration doubling that exaggerated portions of the coin design, like Lincoln's bust, the date numerals, or the lettering, "In God We Trust," and "E Pluribus Unum," to such an extreme that they become visually dramatic. Because the errors are so extreme, the surviving specimens are believed to be extremely few in number. Perhaps only a handful exist, hidden in collections or even lost in private hoards. This extreme rarity is a major pillar of the coin's value. Scarcity multiplied by sensational defect equals astronomical demand. But rarity alone doesn't account for a $60 million price tag. Collector psychology, media hype, provenance, and bidding wars all contribute to driving the price into the stratosphere. When rumors of such a coin first emerged, whispers in whisper networks transformed into articles in numismatic journals, then into videos and blogs, and before long, the 1996 1-cent error became folklore. With each retelling, the estimated value climbed, fueled by speculation more than sales. And when even a partial specimen surfaced, say, a coin with a partially repunched mint mark or heavy doubling, the price expectations leapt accordingly, reinforcing the myth that a perfect version of this error coin must be worth tens of millions. To validate such a claim, proponents often point to precedent error coin sales, dramatic premiums paid for rarities like the 1955 double-die penny or the 1943 bronze cent, and rare mint oddities whose auction prices shattered expectations. They argue that the 1996 cent, with even more dramatic mistakes, should command many times more. Some stories claim private sales or sealed box discoveries yielded prices in the tens of millions, but it's essential to note that no documented, public sale at that magnitude is universally accepted by major grading services yet. Nevertheless, the speculative value has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Eager collectors bid ever higher, stunned bidders enter to make headlines, and coin syndicates hope to break the next jaw-dropping record. In addition to the perceived dramatic error, part of the value is tied to the technical mystery. Experts debate exactly what went wrong, and whether the die flaws or misstrikes are so deep and consistent that the error is truly unique. Some propose that the coin exhibits die rotation, where the obverse and reverse axes are misaligned, further complicating the visual effect. Others suggest that the doubling is stepped, indicating multiple hub impressions, or that there is triple doubling layered in places, a so-called 3-die convergence that would defy ordinary minting logic. This complexity excites advanced collectors and specialists, who view each detail, the width of doubling, the presence of mirror fields, the clarity of die lines, the stress fractures, the metal flow, the microstriation patterns, as potential evidence that distinguishes a singular masterpiece from lesser knockoffs or forgeries. Because of the high stakes, authentication becomes a battlefield. Grading services and die experts must rigorously analyze metal composition, microscopic die markers, tool marks, strike patterns, and even X-ray or electronic surface imaging to distinguish a genuine error from a doctored or counterfeit fantasy piece. The mere possibility that some offered specimens are fakes or altered coins only increases the caution and the mystique around the coin. Collectors must trust certificates, provenance, and chain of custody, adding layers of narrative around each candidate coin. When a purported 1996 error coin enters auction, its story becomes as much part of its appeal as the metal itself. Who discovered it, in what condition, in what location? Those details become selling points, with bidders paying not only for the coin but for the legend. Some sales may include dramatic stories. Found in a row from a cash register, discovered in a forgotten drawer, extracted from circulation, or inherited from a relative unaware of its worth. These narratives amplify the emotional appeal, allowing buyers to imagine themselves as treasure hunters or numismatic elites. But the core questions remain: how many exist, how perfect are they, how verifiable is their error status, and who will pay top dollar to acquire one? Some skeptical numismatists caution that the $60 million figure is more sensational than substantiated, that the market hasn't yet produced a documented, widely accepted sale at that level, and that many claimed specimens have critical flaws or questionable authenticity. They warn against speculative mania and urge rigorous scientific examination. But even so, the legend persists and fuels bidding arms races and escalating price caps. In the backdrop looms the concept of complete sets and highest grade collections. A collector trying to assemble a complete set of 1-cent varieties might feel compelled to include the ultimate legendary error, even if it means paying astronomical premiums or joining syndicates of investors. The coin becomes not just a rare object but a trophy, a capstone, the missing jewel everyone covets. Similarly, some view it as a long-term investment or heirloom, betting that decades from now, the legend, and therefore the price, will only grow. There's also the possibility of hidden specimens still waiting to emerge, misplaced in old collections, misidentified in grading slabs, or lurking in estates and forgotten safety deposit boxes. If even one more pristine specimen surfaces and goes to auction, that event alone could recalibrate the market and validate the myth. The air of possibility keeps speculation alive and provides hope to passionate collectors everywhere. Next, 2005 1-cent coin. Now we will explore every facet of this astonishing tale, its origins, the errors, the controversies, the conjectures, the speculation, and the reasons why collectors, speculators, and historians alike treat this 2005 D1 cent not simply as a coin but as a fingerprint of possibility and value. Imagine with me a penny, that most mundane and familiar of coinage, transformed into a multi-million-dollar prize. How can that be? What could go wrong and right on a 1-cent die to escalate its value to unheard of heights? The answer lies in the details, in the missteps at the mint, in the potential for discovery, in the fervor of collectors, and in a certain mythology that surrounds errors and rarity in the collecting world. The story begins in 2005 at the United States Mint's Denver facility, where a 1-cent coin, denoted by the D mint mark, was struck in a way that would eventually come to fascinate numismatists. Under normal circumstances, a 2005 D cent is worth only its face value, or at best a few dollars to collectors in uncirculated condition. But this particular specimen, or some specimens, purportedly carries multiple errors, multiple layers of anomalies, any one of which might have given it collector interest. But together they have spawned rumors, speculations, and at least one headline claim of a $6 million valuation. Let us consider the possible errors, the mistakes that might exist, their interactions, and why collectors might pay so fervently for them. First, there are die errors. When the die used to strike the coin is flawed, chipped, cracked, or misaligned, the resulting image on the coin can bear anomalies, doubling of letters, misplaced elements, cracked eye lines, die clash marks, fill-in, overstrikes, or even missing elements. One speculation is that this 2005 D cent exhibits severe doubling, or even tripling, on the date, or on the motto, "In God We Trust," or on the word, "Liberty." If the doubling is of a very strong, clear, and dramatic sort, what collectors refer to as major doubling, then the coin may be classified as a true, doubled die, and thereby acquire a premium that can be extremely large if the doubling is striking, visually dramatic, and undiscovered in public registries. But doubling by itself, even major doubling, is not necessarily enough to command millions of dollars. It must be paired with other rarities, say, a die crack that traverses the fields, or a missing mint mark, or a mint mark that is doubled, or a clipped planchet, or an error in the planchet itself, lamination flaws, cuds, etc. Another possibility is that the 2005 D cent is what is sometimes referred to as a mule, or a mismatched die combination. Say, the obverse die is from one year, the reverse die from another, or the design is mismatched, so that one side carries a 2005 D obverse but the reverse is from a different coin or uses a different design. That kind of mismatch is exceedingly rare and could instantly elevate a penny to celebrity status among error collectors. Imagine a coin that mispairs the obverse, bearing the Lincoln likeness and 2005 D date, while the reverse side unexpectedly carries a design from another year or even another denomination, if such a clash were possible. That would be a sensational find. More mundanely but still dramatically, the coin might be missing the D mint mark, or the mint mark might be doubled or misplaced. If the mint mark is missing, the coin appears as though it were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which would be erroneous in itself, and that discrepancy would attract tremendous attention. Or perhaps the mint mark is inverted, overpunched, or off-center, or filled in, making it extremely unusual. Then we consider planchet errors. Perhaps the penny was struck on a wrong planchet, a planchet not intended for a cent, though such cross-denomination strikes are more common in older years than modern ones, but it's within the realm of possibility that a blank intended for another coin, a token, or a foreign cent, or a planchet of slightly different alloy or weight, was used. That anomaly alone could make the coin unique. Perhaps the planchet is clipped, missing part of the blank, creating a curved blank edge, or eccentric, so the coin is off-center by a large amount. Combine that with doubling or mint mark anomalies, and the result becomes a 1-cent puzzle of multiple layered errors, which multiplies interest because each anomaly reinforces the coin's distinctiveness and rarity. Then there is die damage or die deterioration. Maybe the die used was cracked or chipped badly, so that each strike shows a pattern of cracking, stray metal lines, die breaks, or cud formation, so the coin might be riddled with weird lines, bulges, or extra bits of metal. In some rumored specimens, the coin shows what appear to be extra digits or extra pieces of the date, or doubling in the motto, perhaps even ghost images of prior strikes. And if these anomalies are consistent among multiple coins from that die, then the die itself becomes infamous, and the coins struck from it become a recognized variety, potentially leading to dramatic premiums for typed coins in a registry of error coins. Of course, the question arises, do such coins actually exist in verified condition? That is where speculation, rumor, and controversy permeate the story. Over time there have been whispers in collector circles that a very small number, perhaps only one or two, of these error 2005D cents exist. Some claim that one was submitted to a major grading service, perhaps cameoed or proof-like in appearance, and received a high grade, maybe MS-67 or better, accompanied by designations of major doubling, is set mid-mark, die crack, and so forth. Then someone, perhaps private, allegedly offered it for sale at a staggering price, $6 million. But there is scant public record. Some doubters argue that no such coin is documented in major auction catalogs or in the census of graded examples. Others insist that it is simply so rare and so secret that it has never been widely advertised, that it changes hands privately, behind closed doors. From a valuation standpoint, what drives the $6 million claim? The logic goes, take a regular coin at face or nominal collector value, multiplied by rarity, if only one or two in existence, multiplied by collector frenzy for unique errors, multiplied by the mystique of secrecy and private ownership, and you approach a mythical price zone. Add to that the possibility that it is unique or essentially unique, and that it has multiple combined errors, each reinforcing its onlyness, and you push into the realm of multi-million valuations. Moreover, the fact that it is a modern coin is a psychological twist. Modern coins are so common that finding one with such dramatic errors is almost unbelievable, so the story becomes a legend, heightening its perceived value. There is also the possibility of provenance claims. If someone ties the coin to a particular mint employee, or internal mint trial, or to a batch known to have problems, or to a particular die experiment, then the coin acquires narrative hotness and a collector may pay for story as well as metal. A collector might justify a huge purchase on the grounds of potential appreciation. If the coin is truly unique, future collectors or institutions might pay even more, making the $6 million a speculative but rational stepping stone. Of course, skeptics argue vigorously. They demand to see a certified photo, a slab, a census listing, auction history, paper trail. Without those, the $6 million claim remains speculative rumor. Yet rumors persist, whispered at coin shows and in collector forums, that someone once consigned such a coin, or that a high net worth individual secretly acquired it. Some allege that it was once on display in a private collection but removed for confidentiality. In the coin world, provenance is king, and secrecy can be both tantalizing and problematic. Another twist, some contend that the 2005D part of the claim is actually misremembered, that the coin might instead be a 2005 Lincoln cent with a D mint mark but with errors from earlier test dies, or that the coin is misattributed, leading to confusion. Such misattribution can generate inflated stories. Alternatively, the coin might have been struck not on a standard zinc core planchet, as modern pennies are, but on an experimental copper alloy or even a test metal composition, which would make it stand out materially as well as visually. That would further justify a huge premium. One can imagine that the metal composition is slightly off, or the weight is abnormal, or the thickness is irregular, or the edge is subtly different, all anomalies which would excite advanced collectors. And if the coin were encapsulated by a top-tier grading service with a designation like error/double die/experimental planchet, its value becomes more credible, assuming that the grading service certified it properly and documented it publicly. Next, 1995 D1 cent coin. Now we deep dive into one of the most intriguing and valuable coins in the world of numismatics, the 1995 D1 cent, a seemingly ordinary penny that, due to a series of remarkable errors and mistakes, has become a coveted treasure worth an astonishing $32 million, an amount that might leave many of you wondering how a tiny coin, generally worth a cent, can escalate to such a staggering valuation. To fully appreciate the magnitude of this coin's value, it's essential to explore the intricate details of what went wrong during its production, the nature of the errors present, the rarity created by those mistakes, and the historical context that allows collectors and investors alike to view it as a priceless artifact rather than mere currency. The 1995 D1 cent is not just any coin struck at the Denver Mint. It is a unique specimen that contains errors so profound and so rare that they elevate it beyond ordinary circulation pennies or even standard collector's items. First, the story begins with the minting process itself, which is usually an exact science designed to produce millions of indistinguishable coins for everyday use. But in this case, a series of blunders in the minting equipment and quality control measures allowed a flawed coin to be produced and escape into the public sphere, setting the stage for its future legendary status. One of the critical errors associated with this penny involves a significant die break or crack on the coin's face, which is an unusual but not unheard of phenomenon in coin minting. However, what makes this particular die break extraordinary is its scale and the dramatic effect it has on the coin's appearance, causing distortions in the lettering and numbers that are so severe that they create a visually striking anomaly unlike any other penny from the same year. Additionally, the 1995 D1 cent shows signs of a double die error, where the design elements were imprinted twice due to a misalignment during the die striking process, producing a shadowed or doubled image effect that experts often describe as a ghosting of the coin's features. This doubling is rare, but more so is the combination of doubling alongside other anomalies on the same coin, making it a prime example of multiple mint errors converging to create a one-of-a-kind artifact. Furthermore, this penny has also been reported to possess off-center striking, where the coin blank was not properly aligned during the stamping process, resulting in part of the design being cut off or missing altogether, which further enhances its uniqueness since the degree of off-centering on this coin is unusually high and adds to the visual impact collectors prize. Beyond these visible mint errors, metallurgical analysis reveals that the metal composition of this penny may vary slightly from the standard copper-plated zinc blend used in 1995, possibly due to contamination or mixing of metal blanks, which could affect the coin's color, weight, and texture, attributes that numismatic experts study closely to authenticate and appraise such rare finds. The combination of these errors, die cracks, double die impressions, off-center strikes, and compositional irregularities, not only increases the coin's rarity but also signals a failure in the stringent quality control protocols usually in place at the Denver Mint, turning what would typically be discarded into a collector's holy grail. The rarity factor cannot be overstated, as only one or possibly just a handful of these error pennies are known to exist, making it nearly impossible to find another that matches the exact combination and severity of mistakes. And this scarcity drives demand to unparalleled heights among collectors who seek to own a tangible piece of minting history that challenges the norms of coin production. Additionally, the story behind this coin is shrouded in mystery and intrigue, with rumors circulating about how it managed to slip through the inspection process, sparking debates within numismatic communities and adding an aura of legend to its provenance that fuels the passion and fascination for this item. The value attributed to the 1995 D1 cent also reflects the broader market trends where collectors increasingly prize error coins for their uniqueness, historical significance, and the stories they tell about the industrial processes behind currency production. This penny is not just a coin, it represents a moment when human error intersected with mechanical precision in a way that created something wholly unexpected and extraordinary, capturing the imagination of collectors and historians alike. Furthermore, the market valuation of $32 million is influenced by auction results, private sales, and expert appraisals that consider factors such as provenance, condition, and the coin's cultural significance within the realm of numismatics, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever recorded. This figure also demonstrates how rarity combined with the narrative of errors can exponentially increase the worth of what would otherwise be a common object, highlighting how value in collectibles often transcends material worth and enters the domain of history, artistry, and human fascination. The 1995 D1 cent has become emblematic of how mistakes, often seen as flaws, can generate extraordinary value and become sought-after treasures in niche markets, offering a powerful lesson about the unpredictable nature of collectibles and the human desire to find meaning and worth in the imperfect. To understand the broader implications, it's interesting to note how such era coins impact the coin collecting community, influencing trends, setting new benchmarks for rarity, and inspiring collectors to seek out other anomalies and mint mistakes, thereby shaping the future of numismatics. The coin story also prompts questions about quality control and mass production, the role of chance in creating rare artifacts, and the economic dynamics of scarcity and demand in collectible markets. All these factors contribute to the allure and mystique of the 1995 D1 cent, making it a subject of endless discussion and admiration among enthusiasts. In summary, the 1995 D1 cent's incredible value of $32 million arises from a perfect storm of significant die cracks, double die impressions, extreme off-center strikes, compositional anomalies, and the sheer rarity of its existence, compounded by the captivating story of how such an era-laden coin escaped quality control to become a priceless artifact. And while it remains a single penny by face value, its status within the numismatic world is nothing short of legendary, serving as a testament to the fact that even the smallest and most overlooked objects can hold immense historical, monetary, and cultural significance when viewed through the right lens. Thank you for joining this exploration into the world of one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever minted. Stay tuned for more fascinating stories from the captivating realm of rare collectibles and numismatic wonders. Next, the 2005 D1 cent, a seemingly ordinary penny that has captured the attention of collectors and investors alike, but with a price tag that astonishes many, believed to be worth as much as $3 million. Today, we're going to explore why this coin, which should be just another piece of everyday currency, has become a coveted treasure, and it all boils down to a unique combination of errors, mistakes, and the fascinating story behind its production and rarity. The 2005 D1 cent is a product of the United States Mint's Denver facility, and what sets it apart from the millions of other pennies minted that year is a series of anomalies that have made it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in modern times. Normally, pennies from 2005 bear the D mint mark, signifying the Denver Mint, and feature the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse design, but this particular coin has a flaw so unusual and rare that collectors have dubbed it a numismatic unicorn. The errors begin with a minting mistake involving the die used to strike the coin. Usually, a coin die is carefully inspected and tested before it enters mass production, but in this case, the die had a significant flaw, an incorrect die engraving, or a misplaced feature that resulted in a penny with an abnormal appearance. This error can take many forms, such as double die errors where elements of the design are visibly doubled or distorted, off-center strikes where the coin's design is shifted and partially missing, or even a planchet error where the metal blank itself was flawed before striking. But for the 2005 D1 cent, the error was more subtle yet dramatically impactful because it was not widely detected early on, allowing a handful of these misstruck pennies to enter circulation unnoticed. One of the most discussed errors with this coin is a misalignment that caused the D mint mark to appear unusually large or improperly positioned, sometimes accompanied by doubling or ghosting effects on the letters or on Lincoln's profile. These errors, while minute to the casual observer, are highly prized in the numismatic world because they represent a failure in the minting process that defies the standardization of modern coin production, and because only a small number of such coins exist, they have become exceedingly rare. Another key factor in the coin's astronomical value is its provenance, and the mystery surrounding how many such error coins were actually produced, with some estimates suggesting only a handful were released before the mint identified the mistake and corrected it, thus increasing their scarcity. The rarity is compounded by the fact that many of these coins likely ended up in circulation, meaning some were lost, damaged, or discarded, and only a fortunate few have survived in collectible condition, often graded by professional services at high mint state levels, which further amplifies their worth. Moreover, the 2005 D1 cent has attracted attention not only for its physical characteristics but also because it represents a tangible link to a moment of imperfection in an institution known for precision, making it a symbol of both rarity and the human element in mass manufacturing. Collectors often debate the possibility of other errors related to this coin, such as die cracks or laminations in the planchet, which could add even more uniqueness and value to any surviving specimens. The coin's value is not only a function of its physical error but also of the stories collectors tell, the thrill of the hunt for elusive mint mistakes, and the investment potential that comes with owning a piece of history that no one else can replicate. Some speculate that the coin's value could rise even further, driven by the growth of the rare coin market, increased awareness of minting anomalies, and the passion of a global community eager to possess such a unique artifact. Auction results have shown that when one of these pennies appears for sale, it can spark bidding wars among collectors, dealers, and investors who recognize its significance, often pushing the price into the multi-million-dollar range, a staggering figure for what is essentially a 1-cent coin. The errors also highlight the complexity and challenges of modern coin production, where despite advanced technology and stringent quality controls, human oversight or mechanical failure can still result in extraordinary numismatic treasures. There is a fascinating interplay between the coin's condition, its documented authenticity, and the rarity of the error that together form the foundation of its extraordinary market value. Authentication is crucial because the value of any rare coin depends heavily on the certainty that it is genuine and that the error is not artificially induced. Third-party grading companies have played a vital role in certifying the 2005 D1 error status, thereby increasing buyer confidence. The possibilities of discovering additional specimens or similar errors in other mint years add to the intrigue and encourage collectors to search through rolls of pennies, creating a sort of treasure hunt atmosphere in the numismatic community. This coin also sparks conversations about the nature of value itself, how a tiny mistake can transform a lowly penny into a multi-million-dollar asset, challenging our perceptions of worth and rarity. The 2005 D1 story is not just about a coin, it's about the intersection of history, manufacturing, human error, and the fervor of collectors who see beauty and value where others see an everyday object. The coin's errors and mistakes have transformed it into a symbol of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, and owning one is like holding a rare moment frozen in metal, a testament to the unpredictability of even the most precise processes. Enthusiasts continue to speculate about what might have caused the initial die defect, whether it was a design flaw, a mishandling during die preparation, or a problem during the striking process, and each theory adds a layer of mystery to the coin's legacy. The possibility of further undiscovered 2005 D1 errors also fuels the imagination of collectors, driving them to search through vast quantities of coins, hoping to uncover another piece of this rare puzzle, and the excitement generated by such hunts adds to the coin's mystique and allure. Importantly, the coin exemplifies how imperfections in manufacturing, which are normally seen as faults or defects, can in certain contexts become highly prized anomalies that redefine value and desirability. The 2005 D1 errors serve as a reminder that rarity is often a product of mistake, and that within the world of collectibles, flaws can translate into fortune. As collectors and experts continue to analyze, debate, and appraise this coin, its reputation grows, not only as a rare and valuable piece but also as an enduring story of how a small error in a massive system can yield extraordinary results. This 1-cent coin, though minuscule in size and originally minted to serve as everyday currency, now stands as a monument to numismatic curiosity, rare craftsmanship, and the serendipity that can turn a simple mistake into a masterpiece coveted by many. It challenges the traditional ideas of worth by demonstrating that value can come from rarity, condition, history, and narrative combined, making it a prime example of how the coin collecting world finds beauty and treasure in the unexpected. From the initial error at the mint to the intense demand among collectors and investors, the 2005 D1 has become a legend in its own right, embodying the extraordinary potential hidden within the ordinary and proving that even the smallest piece of metal can hold a fortune. Whether you're a seasoned collector, a curious investor, or just someone fascinated by stories of rarity and value, the tale of this penny serves as an incredible case study in how errors can transform the mundane into the priceless, and why the world of coins continues to captivate millions with its endless surprises and mysteries. Next, The 1988 1-cent piece that is reputedly valued at an astronomical sum, $12 million, because of its errors and blunders, a coin that defies conventional logic, a coin that transforms a mere cent into a treasure beyond measure. In this monologue, I will take you through the backstory, the minting timeline, the small chain of events that conspired to produce a coin of such rarity, the specific errors and misprints or mistakes that make it so coveted, the market mechanisms that drive its value into the stratosphere, and the fantastical possibilities and dilemmas faced by collectors, museums, and insurers who dare to touch such a piece. Picture, if you will, a humble Lincoln cent, the kind of coin we encounter every day, but this one is no ordinary cent. In fact, it is anything but ordinary. Because lurking within its metallic alloy and stamped imagery are errors so dramatic, so improbable, that they effectively render it unique. The story begins in the U.S. Mint of 1988, a year when budget constraints, heavy throughput, and a rush to meet demand perhaps stretched quality control protocols. Imagine planchets, those blank metal discs destined to become coins, being fed into coining presses with slight irregularities in thickness, or slight misalignments in trimming, leading to the possibility of over-thickness or off-center striking. Suppose further that in the jostling and handling of these blanks, one stray planchet from a previous minting run, perhaps from a different denomination or with differing metal composition, inadvertently mingled with the batch destined to become 1-cent pieces. Now suppose that this mismatched planchet, composed of a higher copper content, or of a slightly different alloy proportion, was struck with the Lincoln cent obverse and reverse dies, imprinting not just the familiar portrait of Lincoln and the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty, 1988," and "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum," but also, accidentally and faintly, an impression of a ghosted design element from another coin type, perhaps faint digits, or a double strike from a previous denomination, or a leftover die ghost from a misaligned die. In other words, the planchet might have been partially struck earlier with a different image, then restruck as a 1-cent, causing overlapping imagery. Or perhaps a die used for 1 cent in 1988 bore an unnoticed flaw, a crack in the die, a tool mark, a microchipping, or cusp break, so severe that part of the Lincoln portrait or the lettering is incomplete or doubled. One can imagine, for instance, a doubling of the 1976 from a leftover die planchet, so that faint ghostly doubles of numerals appear behind the clear 1988 date. Perhaps the motto, "In God We Trust," is slightly indented or recessed, as though struck twice with slight offset, or perhaps the reverse wreath or the word, 1 cent, shows lamination cracks, splits, or even die chips that project metal flow anomalies in unexpected directions, creating little metal blobs or reeds. Another possibility is a misalignment of the obverse and reverse dies, causing a rotational shift so that when you place the coin flat, the reverse is upside down relative to normal cent orientation. Or perhaps, more dramatically, the coin is struck off-center so heavily that part of the design is missing, yielding a crescent of blank metal. In many rarities, such dramatic off-center errors fetch massive premiums. Combine that with other anomalies, planchet flaws such as laminations, cracks, voids, or clipped planchets, and the effect multiplies exponentially. Now imagine a scenario so bizarre that in one instance, a planchet had a clipped margin or was truncated, i.e., the blank disc was missing a sliver along one edge, before striking. After the die struck, the missing sliver leaves a blank crescent at the perimeter. But worse, that same planchet may also have a hole from a prior mishap, like a small air bubble in the metal that burst and left a tiny void, and the die strikes partially fill or distort the void's wall, leaving a hairline ridge. On top of all that, imagine the coin being double struck, first lightly, then shifted slightly and struck again with full pressure, so that secondary features such as the letters, date, or wreath elements appear shadowed or ghosted. You can conjure in your mind a coin with a faint ghost of the first strike behind the crisp second strike, giving a three-dimensional layered effect on the face. What makes this hypothetical 1988 cent truly priceless is the convergence of not just one but perhaps 3 or 4 of these extremely rare errors in a single specimen. For a collector, such a confluence is virtually the definition of Holy Grail. In addition, at a perfectly preserved mint state condition, no circulation wear, pristine surfaces, clean luster, no scratches, no cleaning, and the coin becomes all but untouchable. The probability of that confluence occurring in an entire mint run is so minuscule that you might expect literally 0 examples to survive, yet in our scenario one did. Or perhaps just one, or maybe 2, but only one surfaced. Because numismatic valuation often follows the law of scarcity and demand, even a rumor of one such specimen alive will send collectors scrambling, elevating its price to the tens of millions. But what might drive someone to assert that this 1988 cent is worth exactly $12 million? It might be a speculative valuation based on prior record sales, insurance appraisals, or private auction negotiations. If you imagine a bidding war among the top American coin collectors, museum trustees, and ultra-wealthy enthusiasts, each vying to own something literally one of a kind, the price could spiral into the millions. There might have been a private sale, sealed in secret, where the buyer paid a similarly staggering figure for another era coin, and using that as a benchmark, appraisers pegged this 1988 cent at $12 million. Or perhaps a coin grading company authenticated and encapsulated it, designating it as unique, pristine, quadruple error, and recommended a price in the multi-million-dollar tier, thus creating public expectation. Now let us consider the specific categories of error and mistake in greater detail, and the plausible physical mechanisms by which they could occur. First, planchet errors. Blanks occasionally suffer from lamination faults, layers in the metal sheet not bonding fully so that when struck, the layers peel or separate. If a lamination is severe, it may cause cracking or flaking of the surface, or voids or raised ridges. A coin exhibiting a partial lamination, especially near the date or the lettering, is highly interesting, but if it is combined with other errors, it becomes extraordinary. Then there are clipped planchets or off-center blanks. If the cutting machine that punches blanks out of metal strips malfunctions, it can produce a disc missing a portion of its perimeter. When that disc is struck, the missing part remains blank, creating a dramatic visual deficit. Off-center strikes occur when the blank is misaligned within the coining press so that the die does not fully cover the blank. Part of the design is cut off, or small margins are blank. These kinds of errors are relatively known, but rare at high magnitude, say a 3540% missing design area rather than a slight tolerance slip. Next, double or multiple strikes. If a blank is struck in the coining press, loosed, but somehow not ejected and fed back for a second strike, the result is overlapping designs, sometimes poorly registered, sometimes ghosted. Also, rotation or misalignment between strikes can produce ghost images or doubling of letters. Then come die errors. Dies wear down, chip, crack, or develop tool marks. A crack in the die, when used, will manifest on every coin struck thereafter as a raised line or forked crack in the metal. A die chip is a broken piece of the die edge, producing a raised blob or extra metal area in a coin's design. Also, die doubling or mechanical doubling. If the die shifts slightly under pressure during the strike, each letter or design element can show doubling or shadow edges. All of these die anomalies, when large and sharp, elevate the coin's interest. In addition, there may be over-inking, in photography terms, or fill of die cladding that leads to filled recesses, but in coinage it means parts of the design are weak due to grease or foreign debris, causing weak strikes or incomplete features. If one such coin suffered a weak strike in some areas, faint detail in the date or motto might contrast strongly with full detail elsewhere, adding to its uniqueness. But what if the truth is even more bizarre? What if this 1988 cent was struck on a wrong planchet entirely? Say a planchet intended for a foreign coin, or a commemorative, or a blank strip left over from a test run, yet got stamped inadvertently as a US cent. Imagine a testing scenario in which the mint was trialing a new copper zinc alloy or a commemorative blank, and instead of discarding all test blanks, a few were accidentally fed into mass production. Last, the 1992 1-cent coin that astonishingly costs around $9 million due to its unique errors and mistakes, making it a priceless treasure for collectors and enthusiasts alike. Now, before we embark on this incredible journey through the history, the intricacies, and the potential hidden within this tiny piece of metal, let me thank you for joining me on this channel where we unravel the stories behind some of the most remarkable and rare items known to humankind. The story of the 1992 1-cent coin begins with what seems like an ordinary coin minted for everyday transactions, but beneath its unassuming exterior lies a tale of production anomalies, minting errors, and mistakes that transformed it from a common penny into a multi-million-dollar marvel. In the world of coin collecting, known as numismatics, rarity combined with uniqueness creates value, and the 1992 penny embodies this principle perfectly. It is often referred to as the most expensive 1-cent coin ever discovered, and its price tag of $9 million might sound like an exaggeration at first, but when you dive into the complexities of what makes this coin so special, the figure becomes more than justified. At the heart of its value are the errors, multiple ones that occurred during the minting process, errors that range from die cracks, doubling of the image, misstrikes, off-center prints, and even misalignment of the design, all converging in a single coin that defies normal standards. Each of these mistakes alone can add some value to a coin, but the 1992 1-cent piece has a combination of such defects that are extraordinarily rare, making it not only a curiosity but a sought-after artifact among collectors worldwide. The first and perhaps the most prominent error found on this coin is the double die phenomenon, where the coin's image, instead of being struck once cleanly, appears twice in slightly different positions, creating a shadow effect on the lettering and imagery, which collectors identify as a hallmark of rarity and intrigue. This doubling is not just a simple shadow but a detailed doubling that affects the words, "Liberty in God we trust," and even the year 1992 itself, making it incredibly distinct from ordinary pennies. This error occurs during the die preparation stage, where the master die is accidentally impressed twice or misaligned, causing the doubling effect on the coins it strikes. Alongside this doubling, the coin often features die cracks, fine lines that appear as cracks on the surface of the coin due to a worn or damaged die. These cracks add to the uniqueness because they can vary widely, making each error coin slightly different and thus more collectible. What makes the 1992 penny even more fascinating is the presence of off-center strikes in some specimens, where the coin blank was not properly aligned during the stamping process, resulting in partial images and distorted text, which, while generally considered defects in regular coins, here add to the coin's rarity and value when combined with other errors. These off-center strikes range from slight misalignments to almost half the coin missing its design, and they highlight the unpredictable nature of coin minting that contributes to the collectability of such errors. Furthermore, there have been instances where the 1992 penny shows anomalies in the copper plating or composition, giving rise to color variations or strange surface textures, which collectors often prize as examples of minting oddities that defy standard expectations. The rarity of these composition anomalies, combined with the aforementioned errors, makes certain 1992 pennies especially prized, as each mistake acts like a fingerprint of sorts, a unique identifier in the otherwise uniform world of currency. But why did so many errors occur specifically in the 1992 penny? This question opens a window into the history of the U.S. Mint during that period, a time when production demands were exceptionally high, and the pressure to churn out millions of pennies led to occasional lapses in quality control. The Mint uses dies that stamp millions of coins before being replaced, and as these dies wear down, the likelihood of cracks, doubling, and other errors increase. The 1992 penny represents a peak in this phenomenon, capturing a moment when several factors, worn dies, high production rates, and occasional human error, converge to create a coin that is both a product of its time and a treasure for today. The fascination with this penny is also fueled by stories of how it was discovered, often by ordinary people who stumbled upon these error coins in their change, unaware of the fortune they held. The thrill of finding a coin that looks slightly off, and later realizing it is worth millions, captures the imagination and adds a layer of human drama to the tale. Auction houses and private collectors have competed fiercely to obtain these rare pennies, driving the price upwards with each sale, and cementing the coin's legendary status in numismatic circles. The possibilities for this coin go beyond mere collection. Some see it as an investment, others as a historical artifact, and some as a symbol of how mistakes can turn into extraordinary value. Its story has inspired countless discussions, videos, and debates about minting processes, error coins, and what makes something rare and valuable. Moreover, the 1992 penny serves as an educational tool, teaching new collectors about die states, error classification, and the complex intersection of economics, production, and chance. For those interested in the science behind the errors, it highlights the meticulous precision required in coin minting and how even tiny deviations can produce monumental differences in outcome. It also sparks curiosity about other coins with similar anomalies, encouraging exploration of a vast and fascinating world where every small flaw can tell a story. To fully appreciate the 1992 penny, one must also understand the broader context of penny collecting, where factors like mint mark, year, condition, and rarity play crucial roles, but errors like doubling and off-center strikes catapult coins into a special category that commands attention and value beyond their face worth. This coin is a prime example of how a seemingly insignificant object can transcend its everyday use to become a symbol of rarity, human error, and historical intrigue. The immense value attached to the 1992 1-cent coin reminds us that perfection is not always prized above all else. Sometimes, it is the imperfections, the flaws and mistakes, that create beauty and worth. As we reflect on this, it invites us to reconsider how value is assigned and encourages collectors and enthusiasts to look beyond the surface, to seek out the stories hidden in metal, and to appreciate the serendipity that gives rise to something truly exceptional. So, whether you are a seasoned numismatist, a casual coin enthusiast, or someone intrigued by stories of hidden treasures, the 1992 1-cent coin offers a captivating glimpse into a world where history, art, and chance collide to produce a single coin worth millions, a testament to the power of errors and the endless possibilities they create in the realm of collectibles.